Our next presenter is someone you might already know. He is a Bitcoin author of such classics as Bitcoin, Everything Divided by 21 Million. In fact, he coined the meme. Bitcoin, The Inverse of Clown World, Praxeology. You can find those couple of books outside, by the way. And he's also a podcaster, rock star, philosopher, you might call him. So this one I know is going to be a bit of a change of gear. I don't know what he's going to talk about exactly. I'm not even sure he knows what he's going to talk about, but the title of the talk is What About the Roads? And let's enjoy this one. So welcome to the stage, Knut Svanholm.
Thank you, Luke. Yes, welcome to the Bitcoin Infinity Academy. I'm Knut, and I'm here, as always, with Luke the Wolf. How are you today, Luke? That's how we intro our show. Fantastic to be back in Bulgaria. I was here 3 years ago, and I made you do stupid shit then. So I think I'm going to start by making you do stupid shit again. Can you all stand up for me, please? Let's see if we can get everyone. Almost. Now, why the fuck did you do that? You want some exercise? You want to do the Macarena? Let's do the Macarena. Come on, then. Okay, so, well, semi-successful experiment. You can sit down again if you want. Actually, you don't have to do anything I tell you. But I think I know why you did what I told you to do. So the talk is called What About the Roads? And we'll get to that later. But I'm going to give you my version of why Bitcoin is way bigger, a way bigger change of how we interact with one another as human beings than anyone can really fathom. It's truly remarkable. I'm going to start that by giving a crash course in Praxeology, the science of human action. So, why do human beings do things? Or we can go even deeper. We can start at how do we know the things we know? That's a good question, right? And an empiricist, a fan of the scientific method, would tell you that we cannot know anything to 100% certainty. All we can do is conduct experiments, measure the results, and come closer to an approximation of the truth, right? But if you think about that statement is an absolutist statement. If we can know that we cannot know anything to absolute certainty, then how can we be certain of that? So, it's a logical contradiction. And there's another way of thinking about the world and how we know what we know, and that is called first principles thinking. And that's when you, instead of like starting with the scientific method and empiricism, we start by laying out some fundamental axioms that are, they cannot be disproven, because by trying to disprove them, we prove them to be true. So this is the foundation of praxeology and Austrian economics. So, for instance, if I tell any one of you that you control your own body, so Thailand, for instance, you control your own body. If you try to argue against that, you would have to use your body to even form the argument. You would have to use your lungs and your vocal cords and your tongue and your lips to produce the sounds to communicate with me that you do not own your own body, or you do not control your own body. So you cannot do that, because by the very act of arguing against it, you prove the thesis to be true. And this is the very foundation of praxeology, or the science of human action. So I can tell you why you stood up before when I told you to, and that is because you had a felt uneasiness within you, and you wanted to relieve yourself of that felt uneasiness. So in other words, you thought you had something to gain from doing what I told you to do. You didn't necessarily know what you had to gain from it, but you imagined a state of the future where you would feel a little less uneasy because you did something by your own free will. And by the way, you do have free will. You have no choice but to have free will. All right? So, because if you don't, then it's all you can start. No, you can't stop listening because you don't have free will. So anyway, everything we do because we want to relieve ourselves of a felt uneasiness, and this is how we choose between different actions. So human beings pick. They feel uneasy somehow. They imagine a state of the future in which they have used certain means to reach a certain end, in which they imagine themselves to be a little less uneasy. So for instance, if I feel uneasy because I'm thirsty, I can take the water bottle and drink a sip of water. I do that because I believe I will relieve myself of the uneasiness by drinking the water. So the water and the water bottle is my means to reach the end of quenching my thirst. You following me so far? Yes. So where do we go with this? If you imagine Robinson Crusoe alone on his island, there is no other human being on that island to tell Robinson Crusoe what to do and how to do it. He has to figure everything out by himself, and he only has to interact with nature, not other human beings. So for him, it's kind of easy to see what he can and cannot do. When he picks something up or constructs a tool, let's say he tries to fish with his bare hands like this. And he catches very few fish per time unit. So he realizes that if he saves up some fish and sets aside some time to construct a fishing net, which takes a bit of time since he's alone in doing it, then he can increase his net output, pun intended, of fish per time unit. This is called delayed gratification. It's literally low time preference, like we heard about before here. So low time preference and delaying your gratification, spending your time doing something that will yield a better output later, that's the very foundation of civilization. That's how you would build a civilization if you were alone. Now, if we throw other people into the mix, we can, Robinson has the fishing net, but if Friday comes in and claims that it's his fishing net, how would he prove that it is his fishing net? Well, he can acquire the fishing net with two methods. And one is aggressing against Robinson by hitting him upon the head or whatever and taking the fishing net, stealing it. The other way of resolving that conflict is by arguing with Robinson that, yeah, I know you built the fishing net, but I really believe it's mine. And then he will have to provide a good enough argument. And by the very act of engaging in argumentation, we are signaling to the other human being that we believe that conflicts over scarce resources, which by the way is the only reason we have conflicts at all, are best solved through communication and not aggression, not violence. So by the very act of arguing, I show to you by my action that I believe in peaceful conduct between people. This is the civilized way of doing things. And then there's the barbaric way of doing things, which is when you take stuff from your fellow man. So for instance, if you have an argument with the taxman about whether the taxes are just and that you ought to pay them, you can come to the agreement that taxes are bullshit and that you shouldn't pay them. But if he still charges you for taxes and says that he'll throw you in prison if you don't pay them, then he has by his action shown that he's not an arguer but a bully, a person that doesn't care about your fundamental rights to your own property. And your property, if you think about it from the Robinson Crusoe and his net perspective, are just an extension of you. It's something you did. You changed nature to use nature as your means to your end. This is what we call homesteading. It's a libertarian principle. So if you look at all the things we own today, like all the chairs you're sitting on, the building we're in, this screen, this beautiful bearded gentleman here, like all of this stuff, speakers, lights, they are the product of peaceful human interactions. They all came to be because we, over centuries, we traded voluntarily and with consent with one another. Of course, they have a bit of violent history as well, because probably you paid value-added tax for some of the stuff, or you were using inflationary money, or you paid some other tax, and that means they weren't entirely consensual. It was like the free market producing stuff despite the people who wanted to intervene with this process. But when you really think about it, there is only one actual nature-given human right, and it's the right to be left alone. No other person actually has a claim on you and your stuff if you acquired the stuff justly. So that's the basic principle of property rights, and it's also the non-aggression principle, which the anarcho-capitalism or libertarianism or whatever you choose to call it, it's the insight that this is something that we discover and not like subject to opinion. Because if you are of another opinion than this is true, then you show by your argument, by the act of arguing against this, that you believe in violence as a correct means of resolving conflict between human beings. So we cannot have world peace as long as states exist. We cannot have world peace if there's still violent interactions or aggression against other people. So this is called also natural law. It's law that we discover, a type of law that we discover in nature. And natural law differs from the legal system. So we differentiate between lawful and legal. And I would urge you all to base your ethics on what is lawful, not necessarily what is legal. Because legal is a framework that the people who are your self-proclaimed leaders, like people who think that they have a right to violate your natural right to life, liberty, and property, they impose laws on you and say you have to follow this law book. And the laws are different for different people for some reason. In different different jurisdictions, different legal laws apply. But from a strict moral and ethic perspective, the same law applies everywhere. There's only one law that can be applicable to all human beings for all times. It's universal. And that's the non-aggression principle, a natural law, which respects property rights. So this is where we're coming from when we're talking about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is an attempt at giving humans a tool to actually live this way and not have to worry about the other stuff. So money solves two problems. It solves the problem of double coincidence of needs, which in a barter system, I need to actually want your 2 cows if I'm willing to sell my 3 goats for 2 cows. So that's the, what did I call it? The coincidence of needs problem. So with money, we have something else to trade always, something saleable that doesn't need to be the thing I barter with you. And it also solves another problem, which is economic calculation. If we have a system, a unit of account, we can calculate for the future, we can plan ahead, we can lower our time preference, and make long-term economic decisions by assessing how much we need for what and when. So these are the 2 problems the money solves. And historically, we've had one type of money that was a very good medium of exchange over time, and that is gold. It's a cow priced in gold today is worth about the same amount as it was 5,000 years ago. So, and why is that? That is because we humans have been better at digging up new gold at the same pace that we've been better at everything else. But gold is not very transportable, it's not very divisible, it's not very easy to verify. So it's not a good medium of exchange over space, which is why fiat was invented. So people realized that they could trade receipts for gold rather than the gold itself. But then some dubious banker realized that they could print more receipts than they actually had gold in their vaults. And this is what we're living in now. Every Bitcoiner knows this, like this is the fiat, what's wrong with the fiat system. Most don't realize how wrong it is though, because Bitcoin is not digital gold. Bitcoin gives us something that is absolutely finite, which means that on a Bitcoin standard, if everyone on Earth adopts it, prices will go down forever for everyone, for everything. For the simple fact, and the simplest reason is that when human beings practice doing anything, do they usually get better or worse at the thing they're practicing? So if I practice doing squats here, for instance, do I get better? Maybe that's a bad example. But if I practice reading Bulgarian names, do you think I will improve or be worse at it the more I try? I will be better, right? And that goes for almost everything we practice. The follow-up question to that, the natural follow-up question to that everyone should ask themselves is, so why aren't all prices falling forever? Because that is the natural result of that. If humans get better at producing goods, at doing services, and transporting goods, everything ought to get less costly. And if you denominate in Bitcoin, the fascinating thing is that you can actually see this. It's actually true. Prices do fall if you denominate in Bitcoin. It's like putting on truth goggles, and all of a sudden you can see the world for what it is and how beautiful it could be. Because falling prices are good for absolutely everyone on Earth, especially poor people. So that is the big thing that Bitcoin does, that nothing that preceded it did, not even gold. So we never had a lens to view the free market through that actually shows us how absolutely awesome it is and how bad involuntary interactions are. So, what is ownership? Ownership is a legal relationship between you and a thing. So, I can claim that I own this water bottle, which effectively means that I have a legal or lawful claim to it. It's mine. I've homesteaded it. It was given to me for free out there. No one had any opinions about me taking the water bottle. I was given it, so I can claim it's mine from an ownership perspective. I am also in possession of the water bottle. But if I give it away, I still own it, but I'm no longer in possession of it. So that's the difference between ownership and possession. Now, can you own information? Not really, right? Because if I have information and I give it to someone else, like the sentences I'm telling you now, like the sentences I'm uttering to you right now are information that I have in my brain, and once I've uttered them, they're also in your brains. Still, you didn't take anything from me. It was just information. I can tell you the time here. I have 8 minutes and 20 seconds left. You didn't know that until I told you. But I have nothing to lose by giving you the information, which is why intellectual property laws are all bullshit, and they're a very 20th century thing. So the 20th century is sort of the anomaly in human history where you could make profit by selling copies of intellectual stuff. So copies of books, this is ironic because I'm selling books out there, but I'll get to that later. But copies of songs, copies of movies, copies of art, you could make money selling copies. Bitcoin is information. But why can we act as if we own it? Because, as I've shown, we cannot own information. Nor can we possess information. Like, it's not a physical, tangible thing. So why do you say that you own a Bitcoin? Well, you control a private key, which is basically you know a secret that you believe that no one else in the room knows about, or no one else on Earth, actually. So you think that you are the only person that can unlock that UTXO and send those sats to someone else. You also believe that Bitcoin's game theory is set up in such a way, the incentive structure of Bitcoin is set up in such a way that it's very unlikely that the rules will change to such an extent that the 21 million limit is ever changed. So you don't actually own your Bitcoin, you just act as if you did, because you have this secret. Now what does that mean? What is a secret? It's something that you store in your head. And it might be the actual private key, it might be the 12 magic words, it might be the location of a hardware wallet, the PIN code to a hardware wallet. All of these things are things we keep in our heads. So the actual ownership of a Bitcoin, the Satoshi, on the blockchain, it's just a unit to measure how big your UTXO is. But the way we interact with them, and the way they give us this tool for interacting with each other with consent and voluntarily, is in our heads. Which means that we are the Satoshis. There is no distinction between the human being and the Bitcoin they claim that they own. So we are all now, it's our collective cardiovascular financial system. We are the network, literally. They live within us. People say that Bitcoin is backed by energy. I don't think this is true, and I think it's confusing, because Bitcoin is backed by human action and human inaction, that we don't fuck this up by changing the rules, which is very hard. A miner is not an ASIC in a hangar. A miner is the person who decides to buy the ASIC, put it in the hangar, and run the software. A node is not a Start9 or a Raspberry Pi running some code. It's the person who decides to do that and verify that the Bitcoins they receive are real Bitcoins and not following some other rules. So what does that imply? It implies that we are all part of the same system, and we all want Bitcoin to succeed. We all want number to go up and purchasing power to go up. How do we do that? We spread the word about Bitcoin, and we help other Bitcoiners out, which means everyone in this room now has an incentive to be absolutely awesome to one another, because you all have something to gain from everyone else here and every other Bitcoiner on Earth doing well. You see where I'm getting at with this? This is fucking mind-blowing. we have this incentive to be great to one another instead of, and by the way, the incentives to aggress against one another. So if I want to take your Bitcoins, if I want to take, your name is Giovanni, right? So if I want to take your Bitcoins, I can threaten you and say, Giovanni, give me all your Bitcoins. And you can give me any amount you want, and I, as the attacker, have no way of verifying that that was all you had. You can give me a small amount, and I may think I got it all, but you might have 100 times more. What do I know? And that is true for every person on Earth. I cannot know how many Bitcoins the other person has, because it's just a damn secret that we keep from one another. So you have this disincentive to aggress against one another. So either thieves and mafia people and Hells Angels and governments and taxmen, all of these criminals are now, they have less incentive to attack you. And if they become Bitcoiners themselves, they're going to realize all this stuff in a while too. And also, you have this, when the purchasing power of the thing goes up over time, you have this wonderful effect that we prioritize quality over quantity. We're careful with spending them. We want to keep them because we know that our material crap that this consumerist fiat world has given us, so that we all buy, boatload after boatload of Chinese plastic crap, the incentive to do that goes away as well. So we all get closer to this insight that which we can do without we own, and we can finally just be awesome to one another. So you are the sats, be awesome to one another. Thank you.